Michigan takes on Oklahoma in week 2. We get ourselves another primetime game, arguably the biggest game of week 2. Missouri and Kansas play each other. Iowa State play each other earlier in the day. But I would argue this is probably the biggest of them all. A lot to look forward to in this game. Let's start with the line. So it sits at -5.5 right now. It varies here and there. I think I saw ESPN Bet was actually toying with -2.5. Favored towards Oklahoma being the home team. Now, I have that there on the bottom at -5.5, which felt like the consensus. The rankings were Michigan 14th, Oklahoma 18th. That might change. So I'm recording this video on, what is it now, Monday night after TCU just throttled North Carolina. When the new rankings come out, this is probably going to differ a bit. So just bear with me there. That's why that's going to look the way it does because of when this was recorded. So let's go ahead. Let's start with Michigan. All right, Bryce Underwood is a true freshman. He's coming in. He's going to go to the Palace on the Prairie. It's going to be a tough environment. Going to face an SEC team that's looking to bounce back after a really woeful year for Oklahoma last year. But Bryce Underwood had a good outing. Okay, his very first game, he's 21 for 31, 251 yards, threw a touchdown, had a good night. I love what Chip Lindsey's doing with this offense already. And just the tiny sample size against New Mexico, of course, that we saw, I like the spread and smash concept. I think it's going to be good for Michigan to be able to throw a forward pass this year, obviously. And then the addition of Justice Haynes is huge too. I mean, 16 carries, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns. So that offense, at least on the ground, was clicking. Through the air, it wasn't bad. But Oklahoma's a different beast as opposed to New Mexico. So curious to see what Bryce Underwood does and how he weathers the atmosphere. Okay, it's going to be loud. There's going to be communication issues. How well can they run the ball against a physical defensive front of Oklahoma? That's the things I'm looking for. But secondly is how accurate can he be through the air? Okay, Marlon Klein, Channing Goodwin, Samaj Morgan, some of those guys had a good outing there in week 1. Those dudes are going to have to get open. They're going to have to create separation and make it easy on the youngster. All right, we can't expect to put the world on his shoulders. Now, he absolutely can do it, and all the tools are there. But again, that's the biggest question mark. For me, it's how effective is Justice Haynes in that run game, and how well can they supplement that with spreading it out and throwing the ball all over the field if they're able to do so. So I look for that offensive line to play well. They're a good offensive line. They're coached well, experienced, all those good things. So it's going to be interesting on that side of things. Now, defensively, Wink Martindale, man, mastermind. He had a great defense last year. Give or take, I think the defense was probably the strongest part of the team last year. It was really their offense that struggled, but I liked what he started to find there. Now, multiple 4-2-5 look kind of a defense, but my X factor is Ernest Hausman. Believe it or not, he had an incredible game. He had, I think it was 8 or 9 tackles against New Mexico. He's going to fly all over the field. He's going to be big for them, especially when you think about John Mateer's dual threat ability. So he's someone to watch for. Secondly is that defensive line. We know Oklahoma struggled running the ball in the past, and they really didn't run the ball all that great against Illinois State. It wasn't bad, but I mean, it wasn't the best. I mean, their leading rusher was 44 yards. So now they didn't need to run the ball, so I can't jump to conclusions and say they're right back where they were last year. But really, when you add Mateer into that, and you think about his ability with his legs, that's something that Michigan's going to have to be weary of. Now, TJ Metcalf and Rayshawn Benny, those guys are going to have to stay on top of it all night long. They're going to have to keep Mateer in the pocket. If he scrambles, if they allow him to get outside and create off-platform plays, it is going to be a long night. That's what Arbuckle wants his quarterback to do, and that's really what Mateer does best. I mean, the guy is athletic. He can run, he can throw, he can do it all. So how do you bottle him up, make him one-dimensional? That's the goal for Wink Martindale's defense in this game. Now, something to note real quick before we move to Oklahoma. Michigan was penalized 8 times in their first game, so they're going to have to lay off the penalties. And you think about tough environment, it's going to be loud. There's going to be false starts more than likely. On the defensive side of the ball, how well can they avoid penalties? Again, week 1, you kind of expect those mistakes to happen, but 8 penalties against New Mexico at home, it's a little bit of a head scratcher. So they're going to have to clean that up quick. Now, let's move over to Oklahoma, and let's start on the offensive side of the ball. The obvious is John Mateer. How well does he play in this game against a much better defense than what they saw last week? Week 1, he lit it up. 30 for 37, 392 yards through the air. No surprise there. 3 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but 7 carries for 24 yards and a touchdown as well. So another all-around performance from John Mateer. Like I said, Ben Arbuckle, offensive coordinator there, that's what he wants him to do. I think there's going to be a lot of design for him to use his legs in this game. Knowing that that was a weakness last year, knowing that they're still getting that offensive line's feet wet, trying to get them in a rhythm, how well can they do? Torrey Blaylock only had 8 carries for 44 yards in week 1. Maybe they're holding things back. They didn't really need to rely on anything in a game against Illinois State. So, like I had said earlier, there's no time or reason to really jump to conclusion, but how physical can they be on the ground? I mean, they're going to have to run the ball for more than 100 yards. They just have to. Wink Martindale's defense is going to take something away. Are they going to take the pass away? Are they going to take the run away? You know, what kind of looks do they give them? I think there's going to be a lot of blitz packages, a lot of stunts. They're going to try to confuse that offensive line and stifle the run game. So I look to see Mateer create and Arbuckle kind of really scheme in some read options and maybe some RPOs that allows Mateer to get outside the pocket, move it a little bit, and utilize his legs, his speed, his talent. So on the receiving side, Keontez Lewis was a star, man. 9 catches, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns in week 1. I think the relationship there is going to grow. I think that's going to be Mateer's go-to guy. He's a speedster. He can fly. He is talented. So it'll be interesting to see how they scheme him open and if he gets man coverage, what he can do with that. Tight end Jaron Koenig had a great night too, man. 5 catches for 90 yards, so he's going to be someone to watch for. He blocks extremely well too. So if that can, supplement the run game a bit with his blocking abilities, that's going to be huge. Deion Burke, 7 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. He's another speedster to watch for too out wide. So all the weapons are there for this Oklahoma offense, but the biggest thing is, can they run the ball consistently? Can they stay ahead of the chains, eliminate penalties, because they were penalized 6 times as well. So not all on the offense, but just expected in week 1. But both of these teams are going to have to clean up a lot on a quick turnaround, which it's always a quick turnaround in college football, right? You get you 1 week and you roll. So defensively speaking, Kip Lewis is going to be my X factor, linebacker. He's going to have to make plays. He's going to have to stay locked on Bryce Underwood. They cannot let him move out of the pocket and hurt them with their legs. Now, the beauty for Oklahoma is they see this in practice every week, and so does Michigan. Both of these teams see dual threat quarterbacks. It's nothing new for them. It's starting to become the new era of college football, right? Quarterbacks that can throw and almost run better than they can throw. So Bryce Underwood's legs will be a factor, so Kip Lewis and this linebacking room as a whole is going to have to be ready for that. I trust Brent Venables, just a standard 4-3 base defense most of the time. They're going to get after him quick. I look to see Venables put the pressure on this freshman. He's going to try to make life miserable for him, add stress, create chaos, force mistakes, and ideally for Oklahoma, they need to force turnovers and get that crowd behind them early. Defensive line, R. Mason Thomas and Marvin Jones Jr., those guys have to get after him quick. If that defensive line can be physical, slow down Michigan's run game. Again, Chip Lindsey loves the spread, but he loves the smash. He likes to mesh them. It's a spread and smash concept, so he's going to want to run the football. How well can those 4-down linemen stop the run and force Bryce Underwood to have to throw the ball? If they can keep Michigan behind the chains, I'm pretty confident in Oklahoma's ability to get off the field and create turnovers in this football game. So in the secondary, I'm looking for Gentry Williams. Who does he match up with? How well does he play? He is a stud. All of that being said, let's get to the prediction here, okay? Oklahoma is at home. I love how Oklahoma plays at home. Last year, we saw them beat Alabama at home. It was a great environment. Now, we saw them stumble and fall against Tennessee in a home game that was charged up. Josh Heupel coming back to Norman, all those things. But listen, I trust Venables, and I really, really like this Arbuckle and Mateer duo. And I think they're going to shine. I think Wink Martindale has a great defense, but I think Oklahoma has a lot of weapons this year, and it starts at the quarterback position. A consistent performer that they can trust, a guy that's going to create plays even if it's not there. The biggest thing is if they get that run game going, I think they win this game, and I think they cover the spread. So I'm taking Oklahoma to win. I like Michigan. I just think Michigan still got a little ways to go. There were bits and pieces there in that New Mexico film where I was a little bit cautious, a little weary. It wasn't the cleanest performance, not the best. Justice Haynes was the shining star of that game, but I just think Oklahoma is a little bit ahead of Michigan in terms of, if you want to consider it really a rebuild. I maybe wouldn't go as far to say that, but a rebound would be a lack of better words there. I think Oklahoma takes this game at home. They cover the -5.5, and they leave happy. So that's all I got, guys. If you disagree, that's totally fine. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy that loves college football, just giving you my opinion. Let me know in the comments who you think takes this one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.